Hello ladies and gentlemen, my name is Dietrich. I'm currently sitting in a new Acura ZDX and I'm going to teach you how to use the adaptive cruise control. These instructions will also work on a Honda Prologue or a Chevy Trailblazer EV. It'll probably work on a Cadillac Lyriq, but the Lyriq's steering wheel and buttons look different, so you may have to do some translation for yourself there. So first of all, I'm just going to be talking about the regular old adaptive cruise control system. So this particular car is a ZDX Type S, so it does have the hands-free driving. That's what this button is for right here. If the car that you have is missing that button, then you don't have the hands-free driving, but you can still use the adaptive cruise. And they're all going to have the lane keeping. The lane keeping is a little button right down here that's on, that's off, and what that does is, I'm going to turn it on, use the car's cameras to read the lane lines in front of us and try to keep the steering centered in the middle of the lane. If I push this little button a couple of times, then that's the graphic we want to see. So that's with the lane keeping on, and that's with the lane keeping off. And if it can read the lanes, then those will light up green. And that works with or without the adaptive cruise active. So the adaptive cruise is not self-driving. We still need to keep our hands on the wheel and pay attention to the road, but it can maintain a distance and speed up and slow down based on what the car in front of us is doing, and it can bring the car to a complete stop. So it's a lifesaver in heavy traffic. It's something that I love and I use a lot. So the way that we use this system, first step is to push this little button with the speedometer with the arrow pointing to it, and then it turns that little logo on, so that's how we know the adaptive cruise control system is ready. Then we just get up to speed out on the road, and where it says set, we bump that little toggle switch down to set our speed, and then we can bump up plus to increase the speed, bump down minus to decrease the speed. This toggle switch only bumps down. That adjusts the following distance between us and the car in front of us. That's what that gap adjust thing says. And I always recommend, if you're using this on the freeways, using the shortest following distance so cars don't get in front of you as much. If you're out on the open road and there's not much traffic, feel free to use a longer one. Well, feel free to do whatever you want. It is your car, but that's my suggestion. I'll touch on this real quick. This is the hands-free cruise. If the car's equipped with it, you have to have the subscription going for the Google Maps, because it requires the map data, and it only works on like freeways that really don't have stoplights or stop sign or anything like that, and it has to be like built into the navigation well enough to know it. Where I am in Southern California, pretty much all the freeways are built in well enough to know it, but that's not what we're talking about today. We're talking about the regular adaptive cruise that comes standard on all of these cars. So if your car doesn't have that button, don't worry about it. You don't need it for what we're doing right now. But just once again to reiterate, it's not self-driving what we're doing. You have to keep your hand on the wheel. You have to watch the road, be ready to react. But I'm going to show you how it works. So let's take it out on the road and see how it works. Here we go. We're out on the road. We're going to push the little speedometer with the arrow button to activate the adaptive cruise control system. And then on this toggle switch, I'm going to bump down to set my speed. And cruise braking on, adaptive cruise is on. It told me if I hold this button, I change to regular cruise, but that's not what we're going to do today. So I am locked onto the car in front of me. We can see that on the little screen, and now I am speeding up to catch up to the car in front of me. I'm actually going to bump the plus button a few times to increase my speed, just to make sure that I keep up with the flow of traffic. So right now you can see the little green 52 means I have the speed set to 52 miles per hour. That's the maximum that we would go if there were no cars in front of us. But we can see that we are locked on to the vehicle in front of us, so we are tracking that car. He is currently speeding up, and so are we. And you can see the little lines on the graphic on the side of the car. So when they're green, the lane keep assist is reading that line and is able to kind of help us keep us centered in the lane. And when it's white, then it's not. So that's what those mean. So right now we are just cruising along, following this car in front of us. I do have my hand on the wheel. Again, we're not using the hands-free cruise system. So right now, if I push this button, this is kind of how you activate it, but it's going to tell me hands-free cruise unavailable, no road information. As of right now, that system only works if you're on like a freeway that the map system knows about. So it doesn't work on surface streets where there's stop signs and stoplights and things. It only likes to be on freeways. So we're just talking about the regular adaptive cruise control. While I was yammering on about the hands-free driving, you may have noticed I went through a yellow light. It hadn't turned red yet, but if it did turn red, this system does not recognize stoplights, so I would have had to hit the brakes to prevent myself from running a red light. Now, the vehicle in front of us is coming to a complete stop. We are slowing down. I don't have my foot on the brake or the accelerator, and we are at a complete stop. So I didn't do that. The adaptive cruise control system did that on its own. That is what the system is designed to do. And so now we're just kind of chilling at the stoplight, waiting for traffic to start to move. A couple other things to keep in mind. The type of vehicle that you're following. Let's see, it looks like we may start moving here eventually. There we go. So I can just bump up resume, R-E-S, to resume cruising, and now I do not have my foot on the accelerator or the brake, and we are accelerating to match the speed of the car in front of us, up to a maximum of 52 miles an hour. So always keep in mind, what type of vehicle am I following? So right now we're just locked onto the back of a regular old Tesla, no issues there. The example I always use is a flatbed delivery truck with nothing on the bed of the truck. So am I locked onto the actual rear of the vehicle, or am I locked on to the back of the cab? Most modern cars sort this out pretty well, but that's just something to be mindful of. The other thing, I don't love following motorcycles with this system just because it's a smaller target. All right, now here we go. This light just turned red. I just hit the brake because if I would have just left the car to its own devices, it would have blown that stoplight. It doesn't read stoplights. So I have hit the brake and I am in control of the vehicle now. Again, this is not self-driving. We're not talking about the hands-free cruise. This is just the regular adaptive cruise control and the lane keeping. We can see my lane keeping is on down there because that light is lit up. So you need to watch the road. You need to keep your hands on the wheel. You need to be ready to intervene. I don't love following motorcycles with these systems because it's a smaller target and you never want to hit anyone, but if you hit somebody on a bike, that could be a really bad thing. Something else to keep in mind, weather conditions. I've used lots of different adaptive cruise control systems in the rain. They seem to work just fine. I would recommend using this and giving yourself the longest following distance in the rain. If it was raining, just as you would if you were driving the vehicle without the adaptive cruise, leave a longer following distance. So rain is typically fine. Snow or ice, I don't recommend using the system in snow or ice just because you want to be paying as much attention as possible, as you always should be, but it's just one less thing to go wrong. So now, I'm going to bump up for resume. And once we got the car moving, we have resumed the adaptive cruise, and we are on our way. So now, since I'm not locked onto any car in front of me, I'm actually going to hit the brake. I'm going to use the minus thing and slow down a little bit because I don't want to exceed the speed limit. And so here we go. I am exceeding the speed limit by 3 miles an hour, I'm sorry. So this is how it works if there's nobody in front of you. Nobody in front of me, I have it set to 43, I'm doing 43, I'm just cruising down the street. So that's the other thing about the adaptive cruise, is it doesn't exceed your set speed limit. People always want to know, I'm going to hit the brakes because this stoplight is turning yellow and I'm not locked onto a car in front of me, so I'm going to bring the car to a complete stop. People always want to know, how do I switch the car to regular cruise control? Well, in this car, it's very easy. If I push and hold this button, regular cruise selected. And then let's see. If I push and hold it again, Adaptive cruise selected. So that's how you do it in this car. Personally, I love adaptive cruise control. Obviously, you're watching me make a video about how to use it. I don't ever see the point of disabling it and just having normal cruise control, because if there's no cars around, it just works like normal cruise control. So now, since I was playing with it, I'm going to get it up to speed. I'm going to bump down to set. Well, let's see. Oh, I turned the system off. There we go. Turn the system back on. Bump down to set. And then I'm going to increase the speed. I'm actually going to get behind somebody. Oh, okay, so here we go. This guy's turning. This thing's going to slow way down and then speed up. When using it on surface streets, that can be a little bit annoying sometimes, because it'll slow down sometimes more than it needs to for somebody to make a right turn. I typically don't use this system on surface streets unless I am... All right, now here's one. I'm just going to hit the brakes. It probably would have read that car, but that is another thing to keep in mind. It's designed to be locked on to the car in front of it, not go hurtling towards a wall of stop traffic. So in that situation, I just hit the brake. And especially if you're going like highway speed, 60, 70, 80 miles an hour on the highway, and there's a bunch of stop traffic up the head, just hit the brakes. That's the safer way to do it. And now as everyone gets moving, I'm just going to bump up to resume my speed. And we are locked on again. Like I said, I typically only use this on surface streets when I'm literally making these how-to videos, because traffic comes to a stop more readily. If I'm using it myself in my own car, I use it on the freeway. I don't usually use it on surface streets. And that's pretty much all I have to say about how to use adaptive cruise control in an Acura ZDX, a Honda Prologue, a Chevy Trailblazer, probably a Cadillac Lyric, but the buttons look different. If you have any questions, please put them in the comments. I'll do my best to answer them. Always drive safely, always watch the road, always be ready to intervene, and have a fantastic day. Bye-bye.